Hello, I'm MC Toon. This is the third installment of Raynard Wilson's interview with 5G whack job Mark Steele. This one's called The Living Streetlights. In this one, Mark goes into some very extreme things. Something about how he thinks that 9/11 was covered up. The planes were a cover-up for the nanothermite, which was a cover-up for the 5G 20 years before it existed, which was done by the United States or maybe North Korea or China. Don't know. Neither does Mark. But listen up. It's a crazy one. The link to all three of the raw, uncut videos are in the description, so you can go watch the whole thing yourself to find out that no, this isn't taken out of context. He really is that crazy.
So far, Mark has not yet claimed that 5G was responsible for the Kennedy assassination, but he has claimed that it is the cause of something of a similar magnitude.
Yeah, 9/11.
So 9/11 was caused by 5G.
It was the takedown of the actual building. The nanothermite was basically just a cover for the direct energy weapons.
Right. Okay. Right. So the two aeroplanes that flew into the tower blocks were just a cover for the nanothermite, but that nanothermite was really just a cover for the 5G directed energy weapon that really...
That's the super woke version.
This is way deeper down the rabbit hole than anybody needs to go.
It is.
There was the direct energy weapon that turned the building to dust. As you see the buildings drop, you can see them disassociate the molecular bonds. It basically just vaporizes the whole building. Well, in any, let's say, a building collapse, you wouldn't see that. If you watch the videos from the aerial videos where the whole thing sort of implodes from the inside out, and you see it just basically turn into this cloud of
dust
atoms and basically drift across the whole of Manhattan. The building didn't drop. If people look at the amount of material that was in that building,
okay,
it didn't actually drop.
Yeah,
and it
Mark, there's loads of circumstantial evidence to support what we're saying.
There was a quarter to less of a quarter that size of that building that actually ended up on the ground.
Yeah.
The rest of it just blew away down Manhattan.
So, fun thing, after that particular exchange, there was a discussion between Kim and Mark. I guess an intent, they were trying to harmonize their own pet theories. So Mark thinks that a 5G directed energy weapon caused the building to burst. Kim Tate, who you heard interrupting Mark, prefers the theory that it was an orbital laser weapon. And they were just sort of riffing on the thought, is it possible that it was an orbital 5G laser energy weapon? Could they both be true? No. I mean, I remember when the buildings were destroyed, and I distinctly remember there being two hijacked jet planes stuck in the side of them. Call me Mr. Boring Pants, but I think that might have something to do with the destruction of. I think if you fly a jetliner into almost anything at cruising velocity,
full of fuel,
probably break. Yeah, full of fuel. Yeah, it will probably have a deleterious effect on whatever structure you fly it into.
But he says the amount of energy he's talking about to disassociate all the atoms, and he said only a quarter of the building actually hit the ground. 3/4 of it blew away.
I was never the first time I ever went to New York was long after 9/11. But my recollections of the news forecasts, news sources at the time were that there was a lot of dust covering downtown New York, but it was not the majority of the building. Most of that building fell down into World Trade Center Square, where the fountains are now.
Where were these things mounted? He's so confident in saying these things. But yeah, where was this mounted? How does he know this information? Where did he get this information? It's just a story.
Yeah, but it fits with what Mark has always done. He takes a tragedy like COVID-19, or children who die in North London, or the Grenfell Tower, and then he
weaves
somehow
it.
finds a way to weave it into his own little pet theory. And there is literally nothing. There is no disaster, I'm sure. If we were to ask Mark tomorrow what caused the Space Shuttle Challenger to explode, he would say it's a 5G directed energy weapon. If we asked him about some kind of minor sporting upset, that's probably also caused by a 5G directed energy. There's literally nothing in Mark's fantastic universe that isn't caused by a 5G energy weapon.
Well, you see, this is one of the biggest problems that we have. A lot of people believe the industry bullshit. The industry just fake. Fifth generation 5G, the technical parameter for 5G, the first 5G weapon system was used in the camps at Dachau. There were focused energy weapons. The technical parameter for 5G is focused energy in air. I sent the image to Kim to show you the difference between what is technically the parameter.
So hold on. What I want to know is why are these organizations who are testing 5G, why would you test 5G on a building like the World Trade Center, or the two buildings in the World Trade Center? Why wouldn't you? Because normally when weapons are tested, you test it on military target ranges. And that we know that there's all sorts of exotic weapons get tested on military sites, and that can be done without anyone eyeballing it. Why would you test your weapon 20 years before it was due to hit the mainstream in such a public way?
Well, it's like the 2.4 gigahertz weapon that was used by the Russians against the US embassy in Moscow. That was a 2.4 gigs.
But that wasn't necessarily okay. Is if that's what it was, then you could imagine that the Russians might use a secret weapon to target their enemies. But why would America test the 5G weapon against itself by destroying the headquarters of many banks and big companies?
I'm going to say this is.
Well, it might not have been the US who says it might have been China or North Korea. I'm not really sure.
So he, North Korea or China, he says here, but just a little bit ago, he didn't mention that in the previous interview. What happened in the meantime here?
Right. I mean, we know who the hijackers were. We know that the people who hijacked airplanes were primarily Saudi Arabian and Pakistani. We know the names of the hijackers. This has been well researched. The fact,
but that's
the
just
notion,
a cover,
right? Yeah, it's just a cover
for the nanothermite.
North Korea.
No, for you got to get the intermediate,
which is also just a cover for the North Koreans or the Chinese to be deploying 5G weapon systems, which strangely have never been found 20 years before the launch of the 5G network. This would have, so if it existed in 2000, if it existed when the tower blocks went down, it would have been installed months. The layers of conspiracy here are just befuddling, and obviously.
How did North Korea? Why was the nanothermite a cover for China or North Korea? Why wouldn't you just blame them?
We are climbing the mountain of madness, and such things are not meant to be known by mortal minds, Michael. Look, you can't rationalize this stuff because it's not rational. You can only laugh at it. I guess, though, that the reason why I bring it to everyone's attention is that these are the kinds of lies that Mark tells when he thinks he's talking to a susceptible audience. I guess the one bit of joy is that sometimes the susceptible audience isn't all that susceptible. Sometimes the audience fights back. And the last few clips, they're kind of a tribute to one of your best friends, a gentleman called Kim Tate, who is, by profession, he's an actor. He lives in Gateshead, not far from the great man Mark Steele himself. And he's the guy who does a lot of the sort of video engineering for Mark, since from what I can tell, Mark doesn't know how to operate a computer. There were a few moments when I was doing these interviews when Kim interjected with some real insight. And, I was expecting him to be a completely pliant traveler in Mark's little fantastic voyage. But there are times when Kim caught me out. I wasn't hoping, I was not planning on going in for the kill, but Kim was actually asking the right question. So,
Mark, you're saying that it's a difficult device to get a hold of. However, there has been other people creating content on this device. I mean, is it available on eBay, for example?
I wouldn't think so.
You don't think it's available on eBay?
I don't think so, no.
Let me see if it is. Sal, have you managed to find this device on eBay?
Well, okay. The device I've seen looks a lot like what Toon is investigating, but I don't know if it's precisely the same device. Is it all right, Kim? If I, because I don't really want to make this into like a gotcha. Can I just remain silent and I'll just sort of feed you suggestions of questions? Is that all right?
That's fine, Sal. But I want to, if it is available on. Well, yeah, eBay,
I've seen a device on eBay that's advertised as being a Harvard technology sensor node, and you can buy one for about £8.50, I think, not including post and packaging.
So Mark, is that the device we're talking about, or is that something else altogether? Well,
I haven't seen it, but it looks like somebody's nicking them and putting them up on eBay. I mean, yes, there has been quite a lot of them removed. I'm not thinking that, there could be somebody in the Gateshead Council there selling them on the cheap.
So at that moment, my heart went out to Kim. I thought, wow, Kim, are you getting this? Are you starting to see through the Mark's lies? Because this wasn't something that I had prompted Kim to say. This is something that Kim mentioned of his own. I mean, I had maybe previously mentioned that Lee and Andrew McNeil had obtained these devices from eBay, but I was not telling Kim what to say in that interview. I think you can just see the processes that Mark is going through. First he's denying it. I wouldn't think it would be true, and then he's having to spin an entirely new yarn to justify why this distributed super weapon is available for a knockdown price from eBay.
So it's clear Mark did not bother to do his due diligence and actually type in ebay.com or .co.uk and then type in Leafnut to see if he could get it. But I suspect that Kim did, because he's looking down at his paper and I think his head's churning a little bit like, Mark, it is on eBay. I think that's what's going in his head, but
Kim really, I know you and Kim have some disagreements, but my impression of Kim was a guy whose heart is in the right place. He's just got some very funny ideas, and he really wants Mark to be right. But Mark is just so wrong, so painfully wrong in front of him. The cognitive dissonance for Kim is hard because he has he's just saying all the wrong things. There was a few other examples where, like, I just thought that, Kim, man, you buddy, you are on the outer portals of knowledge. Just take one more step into the light, and I've got you. Let me reel you in.
Kim could turn it into an expose of Mark's claims never being fulfilled if he wanted.
Yeah, he could have done it because Mark promised so much to Kim. So Kim actually started asking some quite insightful questions about what Mark referred to as the lens on the Harvard device.
Okay, so Mark, have you seen a video by Andrew McNeil at all?
Somebody sent me a video the other day, which I quickly had a quick look at, where some guy saying that it's an omnidirectional antenna on the Harvard Technology's omnidirectional, which is absolute bullshit.
So that's what McNeil was saying in his video. He was saying it was radiating in all directions, even though it was attached to this plastic board. And the drip on the end of his antennae looked completely different to the device I've seen that you've shown. The drip was like right on the corner of the device, whereas on the version you've shown, it's got a really simple arc over the device.
It looks like a teardrop, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
I'm thinking, Kim, you are sort of picoseconds away from enlightenment. What does it mean if the blobs are in a different place on every? If Michael Toon has a device, the blob is in a different place to the one that Lee has. The blob is in a different place to the one where Mark Steele has, and so on. Right? Wait, maybe it's just a blob, But
no.
No. From what I can tell, that illumination has yet to come. Yeah. And I thought I could bring Kim into light, but when I confessed to Kim shortly before making this video that I had lied to him about my intent and also about my background, that I told him that, look, I lied to you. I'm not someone, who worked as a police officer trainer, as I claimed before. I actually have a degree in computer science and electrical engineering. Although strictly speaking, I dropped out of electrical engineering to do computer science. He said that that completely destroys my credibility.
Your credibility?
Yes, but having a relevant background to evaluate his claims destroyed my credibility on this subject. Yeah. And as far as I know, Kim considers me to be a liar whose opinions are not worth considering, and still thinks that Mark is a weapons expert, and maybe he and Mark really do have a few things in common, which is the subject of my final clip.
And do you actually think people worship Satan?
Well, I think we've got history. Everybody knows that Satan is a real thing. You only have to go and look at the Catholic Church and go and look at some of the symbology. You only have to look at the Apple iPhone and see the Apple bit out of it, or the 666 in Google. And most of these technology companies, there's a lot of them, Vodafone 666, Boris Johnson's lockdown, 6 people, 6 foot 6 apart for the next 6 months. There's a lot of sixes kicking about. It's a bit of a coincidence.
What do you mean Vodafone 666? Sorry, what are you talking about?
Well, Vodafone, the theatre, like a 6.
Oh, like it's symbology within the logo itself.
Yeah.
I have found a lot of symbology within logos in relation to the work I do.
When I began this investigation way back in March, I never dreamed that I would actually find an answer to the question of what's making people burn down cell towers. But actually, I think in that answer, I think I've got an answer to the question. It's this sort of conspiratorial, it's this magical worldview where people are relating to this modern technology. They're seeing the trappings of it, but they're not understanding the context of it. They're looking at a cell tower as if it were a magical or a religious artifact, and not a work of engineering, which can be understood through the principles of engineering and science. It's go on.
There's certainly concerns, absolutely, in everywhere in life. Is whatever thing, is it safe for us? Has there been sufficient investigation into the safety of some particular thing.
Right.
Perfectly valid.
Before we, you know, you and I are probably both been accused of being, you know, trolls and people who do nothing but mock people's legitimate concerns. But I think I'd like to say, look, you know, there are legitimate concerns there, because these are vast, incomprehensible systems that are made by faceless mega corporations. And our life's experience teaches us that mega corporations are not always on our side. I can go to a shop and buy trainers that are probably made by slave labor. I can buy an instant coffee made by a company that poisons baby food, right? Our whole life's experience is you know, we're fools if we trust large corporations, because they don't always have our best interests. So you can see that in Mark Steele's paranoia about 5G as a sort of specific technology, although the specifics of his claim are completely absurd, entirely unproven, at the root of his paranoia is a real concern that we all share, that you know, maybe Google don't have my best interests at heart. Maybe they exist for some purpose that is at odds with me living the best life I could possibly live.
Certainly, their goal is to make money, right?
Yeah, their goal is to maximize their shareholders' profits, and I think, you know, why, as somebody who, you know, my personal politics are definitely left of center, and I feel like, you know, people get a raw deal in society. Why I'm personally, you know, I find myself in opposition to Mark Steele is I think, you know, the danger of what he's doing. Well, the superficial danger is he's scamming people out of their hard-earned money by, you know, when they donate to his political party. But the greater danger is that he's creating a misunderstanding of what's really wrong. That we live in an age of neoliberalism where you know, corporate power goes entirely unchecked, and it's not the corporate power to install communications infrastructure; it's the corporate power to make law. And but you know, so that's why I think I find myself so utterly incensed with the kinds of things Mark says, because he brands himself as a sort of savior figure, somebody who we ought to listen to if we value our lives. What he really is he's a force for miseducation, distraction, and quite simply, my experience of him is he's a con man, whether he understands it or not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is a valid debate to be had in the 5G, or more broadly and accurately, maybe cell phone and radio emissions world. Is the allowed amount of exposure safe, healthy, or not? That is, I think, the real debate, and I completely support.
Well, I think there's a bunch of other debates as well, like, you know, where your access to civil society depends on you having a device in your pocket that costs £500. You know, I'm saying this is just one of those are two of many debates related to how the emerging wireless internet is going to affect our society. None of these topics are not, you know, the question of whether 5G is a directed energy weapon or whether 5G causes coronavirus, or these are all distractions that unfortunately make society poorer, because what they're doing is that they are injecting entirely unevidenced nonsense into the debate.
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know if it's a chicken or egg thing, but does it damage people's ability to think critically, or is it just people that already don't have that ability are fooled by it? Maybe.
Well, I guess it depends on who you are. I mean, for me, discovering Mark Steele has, you know, rekindled my personal interest in radio engineering, and I I'm studying for my amateur radio license, and I've met a bunch of people who are very serious radio engineers, and they've taught me a whole load of stuff that way back in March I would have absolutely no notion that this pet investigation. I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do with this information. I thought maybe I'd get into doing podcasts again, which obviously I haven't done. It's been an absolute blast just discovering about these things. And even though I've met some unsavory characters on the way, I've met a bunch of people who also, maybe if I didn't necessarily agree with their methods, at least I saw in them that they were trying to do their best. They were coming to this debate through some kind of compassion. I don't think I'll put Mark Steele in that category. I don't think Mark. I think Mark is a complete narcissist, and at least that was my impression. Like he never kept his promises to me. I'm sure when he was speaking to me, he knew he was making stuff up. He was lying to my face. Because of how I presented myself to Mark in these interviews, because I presented myself as somebody with no technical background at all. I described myself as a non-technical person who's just good at logical thinking, which is kind of how a lot of crazy people describe themselves. He felt that that was sufficient license to just try and bombard me with nonsense. I think as well, it's taught me a lot about how, if I ever have to deal with people I think are a bit on the crazy spectrum, I'm going to say this as a criticism to you. When debate is not necessarily the best method of engagement. I think you actually
that's true.
You get far. You can get further under some circumstances by sort of befriending. I guess the problem with what I did is a lot of what I did was under entirely false pretenses. And when I eventually parted ways with Kim, he was very upset with me, and I think his emotions were justified, because I had actually lied to Kim every bit as much as Mark had lied to us. So which of us is the good guy? I'd like to say that I'm probably more correct about the science, but I don't come out of this with a clean moral slate.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Debate tends to solidify both sides and doesn't tend to of the individuals participating. But I think it's a valid challenge of misinformation, and that the people watching and the and I'm not saying that you should do something different. Are valuable. Yeah. So your role as McToon on the McToon channel is to be somebody who represents science as we know it. I'm not suggesting that you should pander to obvious liars like I just did, but the fact that because I don't have the same kind of public profile that you do, it means that I can have these sorts of conversations, and then I think what I found interesting as well was how when Mark behaved very differently to me when he presumed that I was a friendly audience, or more precisely, an ignorant friendly audience. Yes.
Somebody that he. So I think if he knew that there were physicists in the room, he might have tried to shift the subject onto Satanism or these sort of quasi-religious topics that he tends to talk about now, or he might talk about vaccines and biologies and the effects of EMF on rat pancreases. He's getting a little bit wiser to try and shift the topic away from where he knows he's likely to get some criticism. And
certainly, watching the videos, your interviews, as you pressed him on something, his response was to shift to something else very often.
He's very desperate not to. I guess now one final comment from me. everything we've seen, all the clips from today's interviews are cut from 3 interviews that Kim Tate helped me record. I'm going to give you, Michael, the links to those 3 recordings. The purpose of this is that if anyone suspects that what we've done is take Mark's quotes out of context in order to distort what he means, you can watch all 3 of those videos in their unedited form if you have the patience. And if you do have the patience, please text me, because maybe you're a very special person and I want to know you. So that they're all there, and I think, to the best of my ability, I have represented what Mark actually thinks and who the guy really is.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for this time. I will have the links to those videos in the description too. Thank you for doing the kind of hard work of sitting through those interviews with him, and for this interaction here. It's been enlightening.
This makes it all so worthwhile. So
excellent. So if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, I'd love to know about it. Write something in the comments. Try to make it intelligent. There's plenty of people that write barely legible English. So try to do your best to communicate effectively, because it does make the interaction all that much better. Thank you to Maynard and everybody else and we have this little group of people that are just kind of trading ideas and talking with each other. Thank you to everybody in that group, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.
Is it available on eBay, for example?
I wouldn't think so.